Artificial intelligence is changing the internet and fast. From AI generated profiles to bots shaping the conversation, it's getting increasingly difficult to tell what's real and what's not on the internet. Recent incidents or AI are labeling people and others causing or tragic incidents to happen. It's raising some big questions like, are we in control or is AI already shaping our reality? Can we trust what we see online anymore? And what happens when that AI becomes indistinguishable from us? In today's video, we're going to explore these topics through the lens of Jurassic Park, Star Trek VI, and other sci-fi examples that you may be familiar with. So, to set the stage, I would like to offer this quote from Jurassic Park. Your scientists were so preoccupied with whether or not they could, they did not stop to think if they should. From Ian Malcolm in the opening scenes of Jurassic Park. And that sets the tone for today's discussion because that is the question we're asking. Should we be doing this? So, we're at the point where the marvels of modern technology and us are confronting the sobering realities of ethical responsibility. Like the clone dinosaurs of Jurassic Park, AI has astonished us with potential, but as we marvel at its capabilities, we gotta stop and ask, are we prepared for the consequences of our decisions today? Today, we're going to explore the parallels between AI's rapid advancement and the philosophical question posed by films like Jurassic Park. We're going to start with Jurassic Park with unchecked ambitions, then transition to Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country, at the end to illustrate the fear that comes with change. And we're going to start with basically the AI being the wild, wild west of the modern day. Imagine a digital world where bots outnumber humans, or filling societal feeds like Twitter and X with AI-generated personas indistinguishable from real people. Well, this isn't science fiction anymore because Meta on Facebook said this vision of integrating AI into Facebook and Instagram, creating characters designed to entertain, engage, and boost engagement artificially, but does this risk drowning out authentic human voices? That's a good question. This is essentially the crux of the dead internet theory, which postulates that much of the internet as we currently know it is dominated by AI content, and interaction that we see is largely fake. Now, whether or not how true this is up for debate, but what Facebook has done is essentially confirmed that the possibility is more than just a theory. It's at least in part real. So, how does this define authenticity when AI can replicate human behavior with impunity? Who bears responsibility for misinformation that is spread by these bots? And what about the consequences? So, and are we treating genuine connections between people, like even here in VR chat, which is or virtual reality environment, for potential algorithm manipulation? I mean, these are questions we have to tackle. So, some examples of some current contemporary issues at the time of this recording that we might want to use as discussion points. So, chatbots influencing behavior. A notable example is the recent incident of a AI chatbot that was based on the personality of the Game of Thrones character Daenerys Targaryen, which, according to several news reports, caused a teenager to make some very tragic and unfortunate decisions that had irreversible consequences. And this raises the question about accountability and ethics in regards to what AIs are capable of. And not to mention parental responsibility, and that's a different discussion. Search AI errors. It's not exactly a secret that Google, and by extension YouTube, is now using AI primarily for its search results. And this has been used to, it's reduced traffic to websites, as reported on by several outlets and other creators, such as Clownfish TV and Tim Pool, who have well documented that ad revenue is down since this change. So, it's got consequences. Manipulation of public opinion. Well, this is a theory, but AI profiles and bots potentially could be used to simulate widespread support for certain viewpoints or things like political candidates. As examples, not saying this has occurred yet, just as an example, and making them appear as though their opinion is mainstream and popular or everyone's on board with it, when it could be bots. Now we have to question this. And this echoes old Twitter, which was a lot of the same feel as those echo chambers, and certain voices were being artificially boosted by the algorithms of the time. So we have to be very cautious about what we accept as axiom versus what we don't. So mislabeling at Facebook because of their chatbots. This happened recently before I could record this video. So I wanted this video out a week ago, but this happened before I could record it, and I had to include it. There was a backlash when one of the AI chatbots actually referred to African American men as primates. Obviously, this is a problem because they're not. I mean, humans as a species are a subspecies of primate, but it's not really something we consider ourselves to be because we consider ourselves to be human beings. So, and this obviously sparked outrage, which forced Meta to issue an apology. And this highlights the risk of algorithmic bias or quirks that can come up, and concerns about how long these systems can operate without direct human supervision and maintenance. And there's a question of how long this has already been in use on the platform, because its engagement has been declining for some time. And there's other examples of good ones, thankfully, in this case, for AIs as potential companions and genuine sources of entertainment, like Vidal987's Neurosama, who is an awesome AI and can emulate human behavior in a lot of ways while having a distinct personality. Neurosama, as a genuine AI streamer, engages with her audience, engages conversation, plays games, and interacts with others in a direct way. And even recently, during her last subathon that led to a hype train record being set, woke herself up before Vettel actually called for it. Now, whether or not this is self-evolution, it could be, but I don't have direct evidence of this. It is just speculation based on the observation. So, in many ways, AI landscape is truly a Wild West, as it is unpredictable, exciting, untamed, but lawless. And we need ethical frameworks, or do's and don'ts, that are going to keep pace with this environment. Otherwise, we are going to be struggling to keep up and maintain some sort of sense of order and do's and don'ts. But we may already be lagging behind on that point. So we need to figure out what we're going to do now. And that leads to the philosophical dilemmas of this. As AI grows more sophisticated, we are going to find it more difficult to distinguish machine from man. So what happens when AIs get to the point they can effectively pass a Turing test without actually giving any indications that it's in fact an artificial intelligence? Well, the authenticity, if AI can mimic human creativity, when will our work as human beings start to lose value? Who will be responsible when AI-generated advice, therapy, interactions, as with the previous example of the teenager in Daenerys Targaryen, who will be responsible for when those go awry? I mean, can you imagine investing $1,000 in Bitcoin and all of a sudden it crashing, and the reason you invested in the first place is that AI stockbroker told you to? I mean, that's a pretty heavy hit. And identity. Could we be one day giving rights to our digital beings that we ourselves created? I mean, what if they start showing sentience? This question, it was explored back in the 90s even, with Star Trek The Next Generation's episode, The Measure of a Man, where Data, the android crew member, who is largely seen as a fellow person, got through Starfleet Academy and was treated as a natural-born being, stands trial to determine whether he is actually a person or if he is merely property to Starfleet. And this episode forces viewers to think about the issues. Like, is expressed sentience merely an imitation in this case? Or is it genuine life? We, even as human beings, struggle to determine what sentience really is. So we kind of have to ask our question, if AI starts showing the same things, how are we going to tell if it's official or real or if it's just simulated? Or is there functionally a difference between the two, even if we can tell the difference? Because we only know that we exist because we perceive that we exist. How can we determine if another person perceives that they exist, except for that they say they perceive it? What if an AI asks the same question? How can we tell them that their existence is fake when, from their perspective, it's just as real as ours? These are questions we're going to have to tackle at some point. And we may not be to this point yet, but we are on course to confront that possibility where AI is no longer purely a tool, but possibly an actual life form of our own creation. Are we ready for the moment when AI challenges our definitions of life and consciousness? If we haven't asked these questions now and given it some thought before we get to that moment, we may find ourselves in a genuine pickle when dealing with these issues. And that leads me to our themes with Star Trek 60 and Discovered Country. And I'd like to lead this part with a quote. Just because we can do a thing does not mean that we must do that thing. And that was quoted by the then president of the Federation at the Khitomer Peace Conference with the Klingon Empire. And in that moment, it was a transformative moment that echoed the fall of the Soviet Union at the time, but it also kind of echoes where we're at today with AI technology. Because at the time, even at the peace conference, Colonel West, or disguised as a Klingon, was getting ready to delete the president of the Federation in that film. Meanwhile, at that same moment, in orbit, Captain Kirk and Captain Sulu aboard the Enterprise A and the Excelsior were battling General Chang on a prototype bird of prey who was trying to prevent them from interrupting the plot on the planet. Thankfully, this is ultimately foiled. General Chang was defeated, and the Federation and the Klingon Empire brokered peace. And Captain Kirk himself, or at the beginning of the film, stated he did not want for peace with the Klingons, but Spock said it was a historic opportunity, and reluctantly pulled Captain Kirk into the future with him. And at the end, Captain Kirk even understood, yeah, this needed to happen. People can be frightened of change. And that's where we're at now. We're at a crossroads. Do we turn left, or do we turn right, or do we blaze an unblazed path? These are questions we have to ask in relation to AI today, because if we wait until tomorrow, we may be too late. So I'll leave you with this call to action. We need to start these conversations. Talk with your congressional leaders, your county commissioners, at your local corporation leaders if they're technology focused, and start asking for transparency, ethical guidelines, accountability, and rules that will govern how AI is developed going into the future. Because the decisions we make today will determine what road we are taking for tomorrow. So with that, I'll leave that discussion in your hands. If you like what was in this video today, please like, comment, subscribe, and let's have a discussion below. And if you want me to talk about something else in the future, leave it in the comments below, and I'll do my best to cover it. But until then, take care, everybody. Bye-bye.